Welcome back to another single malt review. Today we are off to the Highlands to visit one of my old favourites, possibly my all-time favourite, Glendronach. Today's Glendronach is a 12-year-old that has been finished in a Sauternes cask. Sauternes being a sweet French dessert wine, which I'll leave to Tim to describe in greater detail.
Well, Sauternes, not too common. It's a sweet wine of Bordeaux. Most people associate that with red wine, but it does produce a few worthwhile whites if you're into that sort of thing. And it's just sort of dessert sticky, but probably one of the better ones, produced on appellation, that sort of thing. And known for producing pretty reasonable whiskey finishes. As you know, I'm not a fan of finishes as a whole, but I will certainly have a look at them. And one layered on Glendronach 12 is certainly a good place to get me interested. So we'll have a look.
I, on the other hand, am an unabashed, unashamed fanboy of Glendronach, and I'm very partial to exotic whiskey finishes as well. Indeed, for my wedding last year, I had another Sauternes finish, that time from the Isle of Arran, to serve to my many guests.
And it wasn't a bad one either. Arran, I think, is quite well placed to receive a finish. Where the Glendronach is, we will have to see.
Yes. I recall the 12-year-old, the Arran Sauternes finish being almost liqueur-y sweet. First encountered at that Dram Fest, the major, every second year whiskey festival we have down here.
Now, Glendronach is sweet to begin with, so a sweet finish on top of that, I'm expecting something really quite sugary.
As you're explaining that
very sweet indeed.
Glendronach matured exclusively in sherry casks?
Not exclusively, but Glendronach, if you want to be reasonably guaranteed of a sherry that is dominantly matured in sherry, or at least European wood, as they call it, then Glendronach is the one to reach for, because more than I think any other distillery, they do the majority of their maturation in sherry wood, which must be a hell of a thing in this day and age, now that it's so rare and so expensive. So it's certainly what defines them. And many people would say it's what makes them great. It's the favourite whiskey of probably more people than any other distillery, to my knowledge. A lot of people mark Glendronach as their favourite. It's got a lot going for it, really.
Yeah, so my favourite distillery and the producer of my single favourite whiskey of all time, a tawny port-finished 20-year-old, which we'll discuss in greater detail in a future video. But for now, it's very sweet, honey-smelling whiskey. But how does it taste? Let's find out. That's an immediate fruity spiciness. More layers of honey. It's almost syrupy, but not quite. A little bit of a gentle, spicy burn.
No, it's honey straight away, and there's fruit there, but it's it's a stewed sort of a fruit. It's preserved fruit, stewed fruits with quite a lot of sugar in their manufacture.
Good characters of, as you'd expect, a strong late harvest dessert wine. In fact, Sauternes is a botrytized wine, isn't it?
It can be. It is in good years, but not exclusively. Botrytis, of course, being it's a fungus which can infect ripe grape bunches in certain conditions, moist conditions. But it doesn't always take. You don't always get a good year for botrytis. So they have various ways around it. They can keep juice back from good years, the Sous Reserve, and top poor years up with it. But it's certainly made in the botrytis noble style of
It is
wine.
the noble rot, isn't it?
It
sucks away moisture, leaving more concentrated sugars and flavours.
And it attenuates the flavour quite significantly. It turns it more into into the dried fruit and honey spectrum from what used to be.
Which we're certainly tasting
fresher.
here in this very pleasant dram.
Just on the end of that palate, I'm getting an incredibly good and incredibly strong flavour of honeyed nuts, or even honeyed popcorn. If you get the caramel coated popcorn, that's
I see
really,
what you mean,
really
yes.
doing it in the end.
Caramel with a bit of a grainy maltiness underneath.
Just on the finish, and I think that's extremely good. It's this, in terms of body, it's quite light, as well as in colour for a 12-year-old Glendronach. Glendronach is usually, given that it's sherry matured, it's quite a heavy, quite a dark whiskey with quite sort of full body and concentrated darker flavours. This one is probably one of the more gentle ones I've tasted. I have encountered a 100% bourbon matured Glendronach, which was an interesting exercise. That was an independent bottle, so that they do use bourbon, but very little, I think. There will be some bourbon in some of their blends, just not a great deal.
There's a faint hint of vanilla on the nose here, but it's certainly not the oaked vanilla flavours you'd expect from a bourbon matured whiskey. So if there is any bourbon here, it's very much lurking in the background as far as my palate is concerned.
And it could be as well that the big sort of secret from the old Glendronach 12-year-old, the Glendronach 12 of the last few years ago, was due to the circumstances of Glendronach's recent acquisition. It was acquired by Billy Walker, of those Walkers, in 2002, or 8. Don't quote me on that. Either 2002 or 2008. My mental notebook has become smudged, but never mind. Since that time, it spent quite a while mothballed and not producing whiskey. So they quite rapidly came out with a 12 and 15-year-old expression, which was hilarious because there was no way, without a time machine, they could have had any 12 or 15-year-old whiskey. So what was actually in there was significantly older and widely regarded as tremendously good value because they wanted that core range back, but they didn't have the whiskey to do it, so they were forced to just spoil us with much older whiskey, and it was really good. This, with its slightly lighter body and lighter appearance, could be some of the sort of first wave of genuinely 12-year-old whiskey. It could be some younger Glendronach than we're used to seeing, but I've no way to know for sure.
The Glendronach range is extensive and varied. And it's definitely, if you're looking for a solid 12, 18-year-old whiskey with no bells, no whistles, just good quality whiskey that you'll enjoy every time, Glendronach will do it. If you're looking for a more adventurous finish, maybe some wine, some other fortified wines you'd not normally encounter, they'll also deliver there.
They deliver some perfectly good single casks as well that they bottle themselves. Only very unusually turn up in independent bottles, but they do this rather fabulous range of, they call it the vintages, and they're rather inclined to break the bank, but if you can find a cheaper one or you have the money to spend, then they're quite recommended. You can find some pretty fascinating stuff in there. Whiskey that has been matured for its entire life in PX sherry, for instance, or port. Some really, really quite concentrated expressions of those, which you won't see in normal releases of really any whiskey. No one releases a standard bottling that's been fully matured in port or PX unless they're insane, because there's no way to produce it fast enough. It would just sell out. But this is very good. It's a very fresh, quite a fruity, quite a light style of Glendronach, which is, for someone that already enjoys it, it's something a bit different and quite pleasant. And for someone maybe new to single malt whiskey or new to the Highland style of whiskey, that heavier style, that's probably a good platform to get in on, I think.
Highland whiskey is characteristically quite sweet, low in peatiness, and this one takes those sweet Highland characters, and with the addition of the Sauternes finish, really cranks them up to a whole new level. So if you like your whiskey a bit dry, especially a bit peaty, you probably won't enjoy this as much as I do. This ticks off all of my whiskey boxes, so I'm a fan. I'm very much enjoying this. Your mileage may vary, but then taste is subjective.
And it's at 46%. I would say, having added water, try it both ways. I think I may have killed some of the flavours I was enjoying there. Adding water has increased the freshness remarkably. It's quite It's quite fruitier and juicier now, but those sort of honeyed nuts that I was tasting originally, which I was quite taken with, have backed off now.
I've got the opposite effect. I am tasting the dried fruit and the nutty protein more with the addition of a little water. It is interesting we've gone opposite ways.
No, palates are very diverse entities like that.
Yes.
But to give it a score, that's it's an easy 7 for me. It's probably a 7.5, really. It's a very high quality whiskey. And probably very available as well. You still might have to go to a specialist, but if you do, you can almost guarantee it'll be there.
It's a very recent release, at least in our part of the world. It should be available in abundance from a good whiskey retailer. And it won't break the bank either. It's a nice, affordable dram, while still being of a superb quality. An easy 8 to 8.5 on my scoring scale.
Well, there you go. Keep an eye out for it if that sounds like your thing.
Yes.
And really it should be, because Glendronach is just absolutely scrumptious, if you ask me.
I fully agree.
Oh well, that's been a single malt review.
Yes, but to end on a more somber note, we are recording this on the 28th of February 2015. We woke this morning to news of the passing of Leonard Nimoy. And, well, for us and for many others, Mr. Nimoy's performances were a huge part of our childhood and indeed our adulthood. So, let's take this opportunity to charge our glasses. Just to say, sir, we salute you and may you rest in peace. Thank you for everything.
To Mr. Nimoy, we can only assume his work here is done.
Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Slàinte.